Welcome back to the IndyCar preview show, everybody. That is our, to my left is our IndyCar expert, Colin Copa, and welcome to the Casey Campbell YouTube channel. Um, yeah, before we, well, it's been a while since I've seen you. It's also been a while since IndyCar's been on the track, but how have you been?
Not too bad. Been resting and recuperating after the crazy St. Petersburg race. Hopefully, in future years, there's less of a break. But it's flat out here. We're hitting the heart of the IndyCar season.
Absolutely. Before we talk Texas, your overview of St. Pete.
It's just craziness. No one wanted to win, and two great cars, Romain Grosjean, Scott McLaughlin, took each other out. I think that was going to be a thrilling battle to the end, and we still ended up with a great finish. With Pato and Ericsson and battling it out. And I think Marcus Ericsson is always there to pick up the pieces when a race goes crazy. The Nashville GP a couple years ago, Indianapolis last year when his teammates ran into trouble at Ganassi. But he's no slouch. He's a championship contender. So getting off to that win at St. Petersburg was a great start, and just a huge disappointment for Andretti, who had the speed but didn't have the finishing.
Absolutely. So let's talk about, obviously we're going to our first oval of the weekend. It's oval of the season at Texas Motor Speedway. What are we going to expect there? Because a lot of drivers will be, this is their first time on an oval, like in IndyCar. Like this is, Augustin Canapino. This will be his first time. This will be Stingray Rob's first time at Texas. This will be Jack Harvey's first time at Texas in a while. So, what are we expecting from the field there?
It is a large field, 28 cars. Texas has had some infamous wrecks in that tri-oval section. It's kind of a squared off tri-oval. I'm sure NASCAR fans see it tri-ovals way more often than IndyCar fans used to be kind of the other way. But Texas has some sharp angles at the tri-oval, which makes the starts pretty hectic. I think it was a couple years ago in one of the double headers. I think almost nearly half the field was caught up in an incident before the cars crossed the line to start the first lap. So you got to make it through lap one. And with such a large field and such a narrow groove due to all the treatments they've done to Texas Motor Speedway, I'm sure that's covered if you follow racing. If you're unaware, give it some Googles. I think there's a column every couple months once a series visits on how they should turn it into a Walmart. But you got to make it through lap one. You got to find speed, trim that thing out. I looked back at last year's race for some research today in my preview at twincheckers.ghost.io. Scott McLaughlin dominated the race last year. He ended up finishing second after a last lap pass by Joseph Newgarden, but Scott McLaughlin dominated. Joseph Newgarden was clearly the second best car, and Penske had everyone's number. It really wasn't close. So that translated to every oval but Indianapolis somehow. So consider future ovals when you're watching Texas this weekend. Will it translate? Will it won't? And I think the interesting thing also reflecting on last year, now that we can do some retroactive thinking about the future, Penske dominated one of the two tracks that has that high-speed oval package, that thin rear wing and that thin front wing and less aerodynamic pieces. And they couldn't put it together at Indianapolis. Kind of a strange dichotomy there. But they have ovals figured out apart from that Indianapolis oval since the advent of the aero screen. And I don't think there's any reason that they aren't the favorite. Penske and Ganassi with Scott Dixon, always showing up at Texas. Scott Dixon was Texas's, like, the best driver at Texas, I think, in any motorized competition for a long time. It's going to be Ganassi and Penske. Pato O'Ward is bringing a large contingent to Texas. There's some fun ticket deals with him. And this is as close to a home race as he has, the Monterrey, Mexico native. He'll be in the running. But I think this is Penske's race to lose. I think this is a Joseph Newgarden year. I think he wants to show people that he can win a championship. Again, he's been second. Like, no one is doubting him, but I think he needs to prove to himself that he can still do it, and winning at Texas goes a long way.
Absolutely. So I know we've only had one race this season, but is there who's really impressed you so far? Because obviously everyone's been talking about Callum Ilott and all that, and just the Juncos cars and what they've been able to do with what Stingray Rob has been able to do. Who are you looking forward to have a really good run this weekend?
I am looking directly at Andretti Autosport. They had a lot of speed at St. Petersburg, and that was impressive and good to see. They didn't get the finishes, but sometimes that happens in racing. You run well, the fastest car doesn't always win. Here's a fun trivia fact.
Okay.
I don't know if you read the preview yet. What's the last time not an affiliate, but an Andretti Autosport car won on an oval in IndyCar?
Ooh, I think Ryan Hunter. I want to say Captain America did it. I'm not sure when though.
He was driving for the team, but it was Alex Rossi 2018 at Pocono. It's been a long time since an Andretti car. If we count Meyer-Shank, it was Elio's 500.
Right.
But no Andretti Autosport specific car has won in a long time in IndyCar. So if they're rebuilding and kind of emerging, again, I think if they focus so much on their road to street package, I think their oval package is a next year, 2 years project. So I'm not expecting them to compete for the win this weekend, but they can improve dramatically if their speed is for real and if they think they can mount a best of the rest or even compete with that top 5 bubble kind of challenge. They need to run well this weekend because if you don't have the speed at Texas, it translates to Iowa where there's 2 races, and it translates to Gateway, which is late in the season and where you're playing defense instead of offense all of a sudden. So if you Texas is predictive in that way. And Indianapolis, which is usually the outlier with ovals because we don't have anything like that. Pocono was the closest thing we've got, I think, in American motorsport to Indianapolis. Um, if you don't have speed at all the other ovals, you're throwing hundreds of points out the window. So, and with Indianapolis not being double points anymore, you can't put all your eggs in that basket. Andretti has got to be fast. And that just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But they can be better and show signs of improvement without winning.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm looking for. That's what impressed me at St. Petersburg, and that's what I'm looking for at Texas.
Yeah. Let's talk about, you mentioned Meyer Shank, and obviously, if you've been following motorsports news, it's not been a good few weeks for them. Regards to both cars crashing out in at St. Pete as well as the penalty in IMSA. But overall, I can't think of a better time because I think, if I'm not mistaken, both Pagano and Elio have both won at Texas. But it would be a big, big weekend if Meyer Shank were able to, because I can't think of any team that needs a really good run.
Yeah, and I think I would caution. I think Pagano won on reconfigured Texas. I don't believe Elio has. It was like pre-reconfiguration Texas, which is a very different track, right? I think if Andretti is faster, Meyer Shank will be faster, and they need some good results. I think they, it's hard to say because both of the cars didn't make it a lap at St. Petersburg, so this will be a real test. I think a win for them is finishing, quite honestly, because Texas can be a race of attrition. So they just need to be careful.
The two teams that I think a lot of people talked about from last week, that surprised a lot of people. I mentioned the Juncos Hollinger team. What are we expecting from Calamila after the top 5, and then Augustin's racing in this, I think, is probably his first oval race, and then the 2 Dale Coyne cars as well.
I think Dale Coyne's an interesting case. I'll start with them because David Malukas had that fantastic finish at Gateway last year, Worldwide Technology Raceway. And if that was a coming out on ovals, he should run really well at Texas because I think of the best of the rest ovals that are in Indianapolis, Texas and Gateway probably share the most similarities, which sounds crazy, but you've only got 3 to choose from. So I think David Malukas could run really well. He factored into the finish last year when you go back and look at this. He was the last car on the lead lap that kind of held up Scott McLaughlin and allowed Newgarden to get by. But I think this year he's been closer to the lead than that. I think for the Juncos drivers, every rookie in the field, obviously we won't see Marcus Armstrong this weekend. We'll see Sato in the number 11 Ganassi car. Watch for Sato. But I think Canapino, getting him just reps, get him laps, because running the full season. He's going to have more shots at an oval. This is his first one. Finish the race should be goal number one. If you finish the race, you should have a fine point stay. I think back to a couple years ago, Grosjean's first oval with Dale Coyne when he was at, I think it was back when Gateway was a doubleheader in 2021.
Yeah.
He ran one of them or both of them, but he had some solid finishes, even though he was very new to oval racing, just because he finished the race. You have to finish the race to finish well. NASCAR drivers can learn a thing or two from that sometimes. But that was a straight shot. That was unnecessary. Callum Ilott, I'll put him in the same boat. I think more reps, more laps, finish the race. If your car is fast, it will carry you. But it cannot carry you if it is sitting in the wall at turn 3. So drive your car, run your own race, and you should have a fine finish. I think Callum Ilott's probably best positioned out of that grouping to have a really good race. And I'd put Callum Ilott should probably compete for a top 10 in theory, but we'll see what the Juncos Oval package looks like.
Yeah. You mentioned Takuma Sato. He's also going to be, he's in the 11 for Ganassi. And we'll also see whenever there's an oval, Ed Carpenter's going to be out there too. He'll be in the 33 for the third Ed Carpenter racing car, or the all 3 BitNile cars, I should say, because I forgot they're sponsoring the entire team this year. Just what are we expecting from Sato and from Ed?
Sato, I expect more just because he's had the full season campaign last year. He's won more recently. I think it was a couple years ago. Those two had another fantastic finish at Gateway. It was that one of those last night races there, I think before the pandemic. They put on a great show. I wrote preseason that I'd like to see more from Ed Carpenter. No offense to him, but his results have declined recently. That's just the facts. So I don't see anything that says his team is looking for a resurgence this year. I feel like they've kind of stalled out in midfield, apart from occasional performances by Rinus VeeKay, and they run really well at Indianapolis. But as I touched on earlier, with Penske kind of taking a step back on that Indianapolis oval, Ed Carpenter racing takes a huge step up at that track. Everything else, not so much. So I'd like to see maybe some of those tips and tricks that they're using in Indianapolis at Texas, because that's the closest comparison you're going to get. But I think for Ed, the goal running a race like Texas is always just, feel out the car, get reacquainted with it before the month of May. So that's what he should do. I kind of in the same boat as the rookies, if I'm honest, run as many laps as he can, just so he's ready to be a fan favorite in May.
Yeah. One last team I kind of want to really kind of talk about. Actually, 2. Ray Hall. They had a pretty good successful run. Obviously, they had some changes within the team, and then Arrow McLaren, the other team that we kind of touched on a little bit, and we kind of didn't. But overall, what are you expecting from those 2 teams?
McLaren, I'll start with, only because they have 3 really good drivers. Pato O'Ward, we talked about. Alex Rossi has speed. He knows how to drive an oval. The last American in F1 before Logan Sargent this year knows how to drive on ovals. And Felix Rosenquist too. Some of his best oval showings have been at Texas. I think it was a couple years ago he was leading or contending late before he spun out.
I think that was Texas 2020, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that first kind of welcome back after the pandemic for IndyCar when he was with Ganassi still, I believe.
Yeah. Yep.
So, they all run well at Texas. If McLaren has the speed, has like O'Ward style speed across the board, they'll be a threat. Don't get me wrong. And if they're running another practice session with all the cars this weekend at Texas with the main goal of bringing in more passing lanes.
Yes.
If those passing lanes come in, this could get wild and crazy. And I think McLaren and their drivers are well positioned to take advantage of that. So we'll see with that. Ray Hall, I think apart from Graham, who has some recent aero screen era really good finishes at Texas, you want to see Jack Harvey finish well. I think a top 10 should be where he's aiming. And the same thing for Christian Lundgaard, because they're still, working out kinks with that team, kind of like Andretti. So, find the speed, keep working on it, and learn some tricks at worst case scenario for Indianapolis.
Sure. All right. Well, it's that time of the show. It's time to make the picks for the XPEL 375 in Texas.
It's the PPG 375 this year. We got a new title sponsor.
PPG 375. Okay, thanks, bud. Yeah, that was yeah. Okay.
No worries. That was last year. I made the same mistake writing my preview today. I went through and I was like, wait, it's different.
Anyway, who's your pick?
Joseph Newgarden. I think it's got to be him. Scott McLaughlin. I have a podium for you. First, Joseph Newgarden. Second, Pato O'Ward. Third, Scott McLaughlin. It looks very similar to last year, I think. But I think Penske's just got everyone's number right now, and I've seen nothing to say otherwise at tracks like Texas and Iowa and Gateway as well. And I actually I think I put Will Power third. Let me check. Will Power third. But honestly, I think Joseph Newgarden leads the way, Pato O'Ward second, and then pick your favorite Penske driver in third. They just got it figured out. Pato will drive really well, I think. Close to a home track as he has right now. And he won there in 2021. But I think Penske's got it figured out right now. Yeah. I would not be shocked to see someone like Alex Rossi show up near the top, or Scott Dixon win from nowhere. Because both of those drivers have that in them. But I think Joseph Newgarden is clearly the one to beat, and I haven't seen anything this year that says he won't do really well at Texas.
Yeah. I hate to agree with you, but I'm actually, you know what? No, we're not doing that. Scott McLaughlin's going to take the win. I'll take him. Why not? Let's go McLaughlin, Newgarden, and Power. How about a Penske podium?
That's equally as likely. And, I make this pick acting like Newgarden's got it figured out. He only led 3 laps last year, but he led the last one, and that's the most important one.
Right. Yeah. Well, we had a pretty good finish of that. As much crap as this track gets from NASCAR fans, it's
and everyone, I think.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Eddie Gossage, no, but
actually, I know IndyCar won't be the only series at Texas this weekend. I know the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series will be there as well with the IndyCars. As kind of good throws back to when they ran those races in June and the trucks were always there. So that kind of throws back to that. By the way, Texas for the trucks will have modified pit stops. So that means the road crews get to pit the cars while the pit crews are in Richmond for the Cup and Xfinity Series race. So a little bit different. That's why you see the stages that are a little bit longer, so they can have fuel runs and all that stuff. There's obviously they'll break it down during the broadcast on Saturday. So, but yeah, tune into the PPG 375 at high noon on NBC. So it should be a good one. That's Colin. I'm Casey. We'll see you in a few weeks to preview Long Beach.